Hi guys, I'm Amy. This is my September wrap up. I read 13 books this month, so let's get into it. The first book that I read this month was Child of the Prophecy by Juliet Marília. This book is the third book in the Seven Waters trilogy, which is now turned into 6 books, but this one wraps up the kind of first storyline. I obviously can't say too much about it, being the third book in a trilogy, but just know that I gave this 5 stars. I really enjoyed this. Juliet Marília is a fantastic writer, and her books kind of had this atmospheric fairy tale feel about them. I can't wait to read more books by her, and I'm definitely going to be in the future. The next book that I finished in September was Entertain the End by K.A. Applegate. This book is the 12th and final book in the Everworld series. The Everworld series, in my opinion, is incredibly underrated. It's a fantastic series. It looks kind of shitty and middle grade, but it's actually, it's definitely YA. It follows 4 teenagers who are kind of dragged into this alternate universe where all myths and legends are true. So you've got Vikings, you've got African gods, you've got, King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table, Greek gods. You've got it all kind of mashed in together, and they're trying to escape out of this world. This book was really like a disappointing conclusion. I gave this 2 out of 5 stars. It was almost like K.A. Applegate thought that there was going to be more books in this series, but her publisher told her right at the end that there's not, so she had to wrap everything up, and everything wasn't even wrapped up. It was like things were left open. It was really, really disappointing. So yeah, 2 stars. The next book that I read, I don't actually have a physical copy of because I listened to it on audiobook, and that was The Life-Changing Magic of Tidying by Marie Kondo. This is really popular on YouTube, and basically it is like a guide to how to tidy your house and keep it clean. I fucking hated this book. I gave it 1 star. That was probably a bit harsh. Maybe I should have given it 2 stars, but in my opinion, it's 1 star. I know that a lot of people have gotten a lot out of this book, and that's what originally drew it to me. However, in my opinion, I just didn't like her advice. Part of her advice is to pick things up, and if they don't spark joy, throw them out. That's stupid. When I pick up toilet paper, it doesn't spark joy, but I'm not going to throw all the toilet paper in my house out. That would be dumb. Her other advice is when you get home, you put your handbag down, say thank you to your handbag for being so good to you all day. I'm not going to do that. I find that really fucking stupid too. More of her advice was when she tidies up, she gets proper dressed up, she has a pantsuit, she does her hair and she does her makeup, because it's respectful to the things that you're going to throw out. No, I found that fucking stupid. I'm not going to ruin my expensive clothes while cleaning, and I wouldn't feel comfortable or motivated to clean if I was wearing expensive clothes. That's just dumb. So yep, 1 star from me, but just not my cup of tea. A lot of other people have enjoyed it though, so I don't know, give it a go if you want. The next book that I picked up in September was Life After Life by Kate Atkinson. This book is about a young lady named Ursula, who she's born in 1910 and she dies, and she's born in 1910 and then she dies, and we follow her many lives of being reborn. Each life she kind of instinctively does things a little bit different from her previous lives. She has deja vu, and so each life is a bit different from the next. However, she goes through a lot of harrowing experiences. This is really intense. There's a lot of there's rape, there's sexual assault, there's a lot of death. So if that's going to trouble you, I definitely wouldn't pick up this book. But it then kind of goes through World War II, because her and her family are involved in the war in different ways throughout her lives. I found this book dragged in a lot of places. I didn't really enjoy the pacing, and that's what kind of brought it down to a 3 stars for me. And I also didn't really enjoy the ending either, so that's what brought it down. However, this is a beautiful book, and I can see a lot of people really loving this. The next book that I picked up in September was Wanting by Richard Flanagan. I was really excited about this book because earlier this year I read The Narrow Road to the Deep North, which was his Man Booker winner, which was 5 stars. I loved it. This book, however, I found really disappointing. I only gave it 2 stars. Basically, this follows 2 different storylines. One is of an Indigenous Australian girl named Mathena, and the other one follows Charles Dickens in London. I found it boring and pointless, and I didn't get it. maybe it went over my head. Although it still had Richard Flanagan's beautiful writing style, which I loved in A Narrow Road to the Deep North, I didn't get the point of it. I hated the Charles Dickens storyline. I liked Mathena's storyline a bit more, but it was just kind of unnecessarily depressing, and I didn't get why things happened, and yeah, I didn't get it. It wasn't for me. Next book I don't have with me because I'm lending it to a friend currently, but that was When a Scot Ties the Knot by Tessa Dare. I never thought that I would pick up a book like this. I am not a huge romance fan. I don't like romance movies, I don't like romance novels, but I saw a few reviews on BookTube for this book and it looks like fun. It was fun, I loved it, I gave it 4 stars. It follows a young girl who is really shy. It's set back in kind of older London times, and she's set to make her London debut, kind of hit the dating scene, but she has like pretty much social anxiety. And so instead of having to do that, she makes up a fake fiance to her family who's a Scottish captain in the army, and he's away in the army, and she pretends like he's real, so she writes him letters and sends them off, and eventually she tells her family that he's died in the army and that she's in mourning, so for like longer she doesn't have to date. Fast forward however many years, she's kind of inherited her own castle, and then all of a sudden up shows her fake dead fiance because he's actually real and he did actually receive all those letters, and hijinks ensue. This was really fun and cute and I loved it. I didn't think I was going to love it, but I'm now definitely a Tessa Dare convert and I'm going to read all of her books. The next book I also don't have a physical copy of because I listened to it on audio, and that's Monsters of Men by Patrick Ness. This is the third and final book in the Chaos Walking trilogy, which follows a young boy named Todd in a world where everyone can hear everyone else's thoughts. That's all I'm going to say about it, but I really loved the first 2 books in this trilogy. I gave them 4 stars each. This book I gave 3 stars, although I really love Patrick Ness's writing and his stories and his characters. I've loved everything he's written so far that I've read. This book I felt like could have been a bit more. It didn't have that same spark that the first 2 had, so it was a little bit disappointing to me, but still really good. The next 2 books that I read in September were both by Jules Verne, and that was 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea and Around the World in 80 Days. I loved these. Jules Verne was kind of one of the pioneers of science fiction. This one follows Captain Nemo and his submarine. It was written in 1870, so like back in the day this would have been pretty crazy, having like a submarine that could go really deep in the ocean and really fast around the world. So yeah, and then I read Around the World in 80 Days, which is about Phileas Fogg, who back in, I think this was published in 1873, when the fastest anyone had ever travelled around the world was 120 days, and he's worked out that he can do it in 80 days, and he makes a wager that he can do that, and hijinks ensue. These were great. I read them in these Reader's Digest illustrated editions, so they had these really beautiful kind of pictures in them. Wait, let me find one. So yeah, there was pictures throughout both of them. Yeah, and Jules Verne, even though, I mean, this was translated from French and written, you know, really long time ago, it's still really easy to read and to get into the story. They're fun, they're quick to get through, and I think he was an amazing writer for his time. This book that I read was Kill the Boy Band by Goldie Moldavsky. For some reason I got a proof copy of this when I ordered it off Thrift Books, and I wanted a hardcover anyway. They refunded me. But this book, again, not my kind of style, but I picked it up because I've been told that it's a black comedy, and I love black comedies. It's about these 4 teenage girls who are obsessed with this band called the Ruperts, which is basically meant to be One Direction, and they go and they stay in the hotel that the boys are staying in, and they end up kidnapping one of the boy band members. Hijinks ensue, and it's really funny, and I love black comedy. If you love the movie Heathers, you will love this. I can't wait to pick up Goldie Moldavsky's other book, No Good Deed, I believe it's called, but yeah, I gave this 5 stars. Next book that I picked up was The City and the City by China Miéville. This is hard to describe. It's a detective story, but the setting is this city, which is kind of like cross-hatched or interweaved with another city. So there's 2 cities, but they share streets, they share like areas. And when you live in one city, you can't acknowledge that the other city exists. If you, like, you could be on the same street and there could be someone from the other city walking down. You can't look at them or acknowledge them, otherwise you're in breach and you're taken away. A young woman is found murdered, and the detective from one of the cities believes that she was murdered in the other city and has to investigate the crime. This was a really original book and I really enjoyed the writing. It was quick to get through. I'm not a huge fan of detective fiction normally, but this was really good, so I gave it 4 stars. The next book was The Awakening by Kate Chopin. Oh my god, I hated this. I fucking hated it. I gave this 1 star. This is meant to be like a feminist piece, classic feminist piece, and I just didn't get that at all. I thought this was the opposite of feminism. Really didn't enjoy it. Ooh, I hated it. Okay, so basically it's about a woman who's like awakening, you know, finding herself by having an affair on her husband. She like doesn't give a fuck about her kids. She doesn't want to do anything like around the house. Like, she doesn't even have to do anything around the house. She's got servants. She can't even be bothered telling the servants what to do, what to cook, how to clean. And she paints, and that's kind of what she loves doing. That's great. I like that you like painting. Don't cheat on your boyfriend, and don't, like, you know, you should probably love your children. That would be great. And then the ending, which obviously I can't spoil, but it was just the opposite of what I find feminist. So yeah, I hated it. I hate this book as well. It's really ugly. I bought it for university, which I didn't even read it when I was at university, and I'm definitely going to get rid of it. The final book that I read in September was Fetish by Tara Moss. Tara Moss is really cool. I love Tara Moss. She is a dual Canadian-Australian citizen, but she lives in Australia. She's really smart. She's very kind of pro-feminist, and she, I believe she has a PhD in literature and models. So she's just beautiful and awesome. So I really, really wanted to enjoy this. I did kind of enjoy this. I gave it 3 stars. This is kind of a crime thriller and the first in a series following a Canadian model who moves to Australia or visits Australia and finds that one of her best friends has been murdered by a serial killer. The serial killer is now after her. She is a very intelligent model. She's studying her PhD in forensic psychology, and her father was a detective. So she kind of knows what she's doing, and so she wants to get involved and help solve the crime, catch the serial killer who killed her friend. I found it to be a little bit predictable. The writing wasn't fantastic, but I really loved Katie's character. She was smart, she was beautiful, and she was headstrong, and I loved all that about her. This is Tara Moss's first book, I believe, so I'm definitely going to give her another chance, even though I didn't love this. I think she probably would improve greatly in her future books. That's it. That's all 13 books that I read in September. If you've read any of these books and have opinions on them, or if you want to read any of these books and you have questions for me about them, please let me know in the comments down below, and I'll see you next time. Bye!